And sometimes we're afraid that maybe death is like where the lights go out and that's it. It's darkness for good. Hey, my friends, today's reading, we're in the middle of Lent and coming close to the end, and our church has set it up to get us to start thinking about death. And it's a hard one because we're afraid so often of what comes next, what happens at the end of my life. And Jesus goes right into the middle of this in this story and prepares us for what's coming, both in his life and in this big story that God's telling. And I'm going to just spoil it for you. It's really, really good. This is a reading from the Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Now, a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. The sisters sent a message to Jesus. Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard this message, he said, this illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Jesus said to his disciples, let's go to Judea again. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has just fallen asleep, he'll be all right. Jesus, however, had been speaking about Lazarus' death. They thought he was referring merely to sleep. So Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's also go, that we might die with him. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to Jesus, I know that he'll rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world. He said to her, where have you laid him? Lord, come and see. Jesus began to weep. Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, already there is a stink, because he's been dead for 4 days. Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked upward and said, Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out. The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Whew, that's a big one. That's a lot. Especially if you have had someone close to you pass away and you wonder about death and life after death. Is there not? Lazarus was in that tomb, and it was as dark as it could get. Before Jesus, there's no light. He's the light after death. You see, he comes, and the symbol of rolling that stone away and the light pouring in. Obviously, when they rolled the stone away, actual light came in, but Jesus entered death and said, no, here where I am, me and my Father, death has no say. I'm the master of life, and therefore I'm the master of death. And today, death does not have a say. And he says, Lazarus, come out. And his friend rises from the dead. Everything that Jesus does, it's not just a demonstration of how powerful he is. It's an illustration of what happens when we believe and when his kingdom comes into our life. Now, it doesn't mean, we're not going to lose people, friends, family in our lives to death. Obviously, that's part of our experience here. But it does tell us that in Jesus, this isn't it. This life is a part of the big story that we have been invited to and created into by God. And that death isn't an end, death is a beginning. It's a birth from this life into the next. Just like when we were born in our mom's tummy and we came out into this world, we are now in this world and we'll be born into the next when we look to Jesus and we trust that he's the author of life. So there's hope here, my friends. Outside in this week, we're pretty blessed because we're in this part of the world where we have 4 seasons, and we get super dark and really cold and really dead for the winter, right? All the trees and plants die, the animals hibernate, the sun goes down super early and gets up super late, and it's actually dark. And then we get this moment where spring breaks forth. So this week, spring is springing. I want you to look around and see the signs of life, and I want those to be a reminder to you that death does not win. We don't stay dead. We rise. The world around us is a living example of the resurrection of Jesus. And we'll see it in the plants, we'll see it in the birds coming back. I just got an email, somebody saw the geese, they're back, right? Things are going to turn green, the sun's going to be up longer. And just in a little over 2 weeks, we're going to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, which is where Jesus is going with this story. He's going to give us the ultimate example of life triumphing over death. So, take heart, my friends. Life wins.